Hello, my name is John Hoffman. I'm chairman of the Board of Trustees of the Pittsburgh-Kemp County Museum Association, which is going to own and operate the Northeast Texas Rural Heritage Museum in Pittsburgh, going to open in the spring of 1991. And we are located about 4 miles out on the Pistol Mill Road on the old Charlie Hoffman farm. And this beautiful farmhouse behind us in the barn, which the cameraman will show you in just 1 minute, is going to be a part of our Rural Heritage Farmstead. And sitting here right by me in the chair is Esther Hoffman. And she was, before she was married, when she was a young girl, she was raised in this house, and she's going to tell us something about her childhood and her years of living in this house. With me are other members of the Board of Trustees of the Museum Association. On my left over here is Mrs. Elizabeth Whiteley, Mrs. James Ross Whiteley, who is chairman of the committee to restore this house and barn and get it ready to be moved to the farmstead. Next is my wife, Peggy Holman, one of the members of the Board of Trustees. This is Carrie White, president of the Chamber of Commerce, and also a member of the Board of Trustees, who's going to be active with Billy Law, who is chairman of our Building and Grounds Committee, in preparing this house for preservation and restoration. And we're now ready to take a tour of the house and the grounds. And taking the pictures today is Lacey Davis, who has for many years been a member of the Kemp County Historical Society and has recorded on video and film most of the archival material that we have on Pittsburgh history. So Lacey, if you're ready, well, we can go inside or go where you want us to go. Okay, now we're going to, before we go in the house, we're going to ask Esther to tell us just a little bit about the family history of this property that we're standing on. Esther?
Nobody has ever owned this land but my grandfather, my daddy, and Uncle Ben, and the Indians.
And your daddy's name was what?
Charlie Adam Hoffman.
Okay. And how many children were raised here?
6.
6 children. And you were born here or born near here?
I was born near here, my grandfather's.
And moved into this house, how old were you?
Well, I don't know exactly, but before I started to school.
Before you started to school.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got a lot of fond memories of what happened in the family life in this house with you. And you had how many brothers and sisters?
1 sister and 4 brothers.
1 sister and 4 brothers. And it was a working farm.
It was.
Your father was a farmer and also a house builder and cabinet maker?
Well, yes. He didn't do it professionally, though. He just did it for some people and for himself.
Right. And where was your mother from? Is she a local person?
She's from Alabama.
She's from Alabama, and her maiden name was what?
Mitchell.
Mitchell. And you have some history on both the Mitchells and the Hoffmans?
Not very much.
Not very much.
Especially the Mitchells.
Okay.
They came here when my mother was a little girl.
And you lived in this house until you were married?
Yes.
And how old were you then?
Almost 18.
Almost 18. Okay. Everybody got married young in those days.
Yeah.
Okay, and your brothers and sisters and other members of the family continued to live here until when? For how long?
Run that by me again.
How long had members of the family lived in this house?
Well, they lived here all their lives.
Until when?
Until they started getting married and going off to school.
And who has lived here most recently?
My stepmother.
Your stepmother, and she lived here until about
3 or 4 years ago.
1986 or 87?
I'd say 87.
87. Okay. Well, that's very interesting, and with that background now, let's take Esther inside and let us walk through the rooms and let her tell you. All right, before we go on inside, Esther, tell us a little bit about your grandfather and the Hoffman place up the hill here, and you can point to where it was.
Well, that house was not on a hill.
Oh, where was it?
It was right up here on the same side of the road.
On the same side of the road?
Less than a mile.
Less than a mile.
Oh,
away.
less than a half a mile. I'd say less than a quarter.
And that's where your father was raised as a boy?
Born and reared there.
Born and reared there. And what about your brothers and sisters? Tell us their names so we'll have them on record.
Well, Estelle was Catherine Estelle.
Was she the oldest?
I'm the oldest.
You're the oldest, all right.
And then there was Roy Adam.
Roy Adams.
He was next. Roy Adam.
Uh-huh.
He was next. And then Alton Hoffman was next, and he was called. Was he? Did he have a nickname? No, he wasn't Happy. No, he was just Buddy. His nickname was Buddy.
Uh-huh.
And then there was Lowell. William Lowell was his name.
Uh-huh.
And then he was the one called Happy. Excuse
Happy,
me.
Yeah.
The one that was called Happy. And then there was Winfred. He's the one they called Heavy.
And he's the youngest.
He's the youngest.
Okay.
His name was Winfred, Harold Winfred.
Harold Winfred.
Mm-hmm.
So Estelle was the second child?
She was the second child.
After
And
you.
she was born up here
Okay.
at Grandpa's place.
And then the 4 boys.
Yes, the 4 boys.
Esther, tell us what you know about the history of the house. There were the 2 rooms were built first, you say?
They were built when we moved into it. And we moved into it when it was 2 rooms.
And that's the 2 rooms on the right side, the way we're sitting here behind us,
Yes.
the way the camera's facing.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other room on the left and the back kitchen room were added later.
Yeah, 2 different times.
At 2 different times. Do you remember when the dog run was closed in?
I do, but I don't remember dates.
Don't remember the dates.
Mhm.
Uh-huh. Incidentally, I think we ought to be on record also that the house and barns now belong to Esther's youngest brother, Harold Winfred, who is a resident of Florida, but very well known, went to school in Pittsburgh and well known in Pittsburgh. And it is Harold Winfred, or Heavy as we call him, who is giving the Museum Association the house and the barn and Esther, and he is doing this with the concurrence of all the other heirs in the Hoffman estate. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we go inside?
I can't think of it.
Can't think of anything. Did we eliminate anything, Lacey? Anything else we need to?
Well, they
ask her?
did ask me out here where Grandpa came from.
All right. Where did your grandfather come from?
He came from St. Louis to New Orleans by boat.
My
He was
goodness.
stowaway.
A stowaway.
Mm-hmm. And then he came from New Orleans to Jefferson by boat.
Uh-huh.
And from Jefferson on down, he migrated
when
on
was
down
that?
to...
In the 1850s or?
Oh, lads,
60s?
well, I guess it must have been earlier than that. Now, I tried to get this. It's down at the bank, but they had misplaced it. It was a record of when the place was, all this transferred took place. It was either 1853 or 1843. I've forgotten which.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Well, we'll do a little research on that and see if we can't pin down those dates.
State Bank, you see Edward Russell and tell him it's very important that we have that for him to dig it up. He's the one I let have it.
Okay, we'll do that, and we'll let our Historical Research Committee go to work on that. Okay, we just want to show you a couple of little things about the outside of this house before we go inside. It is a house almost 100 years old, and we think parts of it are probably older than that. But the one interesting aspect that Billy Law and Carrie White and I are looking at, these turned posts came off of the old Lon Morris Bank on Main Street, which originally in the late 1880s and 90s was a wood frame building on Main Street. And where Cozart John's insurance agency now is, when that brick building was built, they took the wood porch off of that, and Mr. Hoffman, who was a cabinet man and a carpenter, acquired those posts. And you will notice, Lacey, that he had to shim up the bottom of the post to make them high enough, so it was probably a very low overhanging porch on the bank. But it's very interesting that the posts are in very, very good shape. And it's just great that we're going to be able to preserve them.
6 of them.
There are 6 of them, yes, across the front of the porch. The roof has been leaking a little bit, but our building committee gentlemen here are going to repair that roof and we will be able to preserve this porch. We're now
The bright lights.
in the bright light in the front parlor of the house, one of the two original rooms that was built in the house. And Esther, you say that you're not sure, but you think possibly this part of the house was built prior to your daddy moving into it.
Yes, it was built before that. I don't know how long.
And your daddy moved in about when?
I must have been about 4 or 5 years old when he moved down here.
And that would make it when? When were you born?
1905.
1905. So Mr. Hoffman probably moved in about 1909 or 10 or something like that.
Well, I think Roy was born down here, and he's not doing anything, is he?
No, you just keep talking.
I think he was born down here, and I think he was born in 4 years, about 1910, I believe.
About 1910.
I believe so.
Okay.
I may get myself all bummed up.
And what do you remember this room being now while you were a little girl and growing up here in this room?
Well, there was a bed there and a bed here. Mama's machine was over there where she had plenty of light. And a dresser was there and a center table here. And we had hanging lights. It was a gas light.
Gas lights.
Mm-hmm.
And the fireplace was used just for heating,
Yes.
but not for cooking.
Nope.
No. And the
Oh,
table,
we did cook on it though. But it wasn't made for that.
Now there were 2 beds and a dresser and a sewing machine. The table that was in the middle of the room, what did you use it for? Eating or
No, it was just a center table.
just a center
For
table?
a living room or a bedroom.
Round center table. Okay. And was there a mantle on there?
Oh yeah, I had a pretty mantle.
Pretty mantle that someone has taken off.
Oh yes, my stepmother had that done.
Yes, I see. Okay. Would you remember the design of the mantle if we showed you some pictures of mantles that we could get
I might sort of.
Okay. I'm not sure whether Lacey's got it or not, or whether there's enough light in here to show it, but the building has been invaded by termites in recent years, but we happily notice it in the one spot that we can see up there that the termite tracks are in the wallpaper, probably eating the paste at the wallpaper and not eating the wood, which is very, very good. Okay, now let's, Lacey, we're going to move back into the other original room, and from there we can see the kitchen, which was added on later. We're now in the second original room in the house, and this room, Esther, was used for what?
Kitchen and a dining room too. It was all together.
Kitchen and a dining room, and this room is what, about 12 by 15 feet or something like that? Billy, would you?
About 18 feet, I think.
About 18 feet.
I think so.
All right. And it was used as a kitchen and a dining room. Were these closets over here original?
No, she had the second wife had those put in
The second
here.
wife had those closets added
The
on.
stepmother.
And behind this wallpaper, I don't know whether you can see it or not, but those are pure pine 1x12s back there, and probably not many knots in any of them. And these are the original pine floors, aren't they, Esther?
As far as I know.
Yeah, as far as I know. They just don't get lumber like this anymore. But we will have all of these floors refinished and restore the house to its original condition. Okay, now, going out on that porch, was there a porch out there when you were here as a little girl?
No, there's just doorsteps.
Just a doorstep went down. And you think that when you were a teenager, the other rooms were added on?
Oh, before I was a teenager.
Before you were a teenager. Okay. All right, let's go now and go back over into the living room, which was...
I was going to tell you, though, I don't want to leave this out. We had screens. We had beautiful screens that, that we used at the corners over there when we didn't have beds up there.
Uh-huh.
We had a bed there and a bed here. This bed was, the head was that way, and this one was this way. It was a 3/4 bed.
Uh-huh.
But after that was taken out, the kids began to get married, we had some real pretty oak screens. Mm-hmm. I can remember one especially that was had covered with fixed with cretonne.
Uh-huh.
And it had a Chinese design on it. it was red with the white, you know, and the women with the hair done on top of their head and this, that, and the other.
Mm-hmm.
Esther, John asked her when her mother died, and when
In 33.
Esther's mother died in 33, and then at that time he married his second wife.
Yeah, sometime in 34 he married her.
He died in 1933,
Mama did.
and about a year later, he remarried.
Yes, a little less than a year later.
And what was her name, the new wife's name, the second wife?
Mary Woodall.
Mary Woodall. Okay.
Were the closets originally here, or were they added later?
They were added later.
Yeah. Okay, and in conjunction to that, Lacey, she said that there was a three-quarter bed over in that corner where that closet is, and another bed behind you up this way. And the whole family lived, cooked, ate, and slept in these two rooms.
Yeah, they wasn't a great big family though then. There was just two of us, or three.
Yeah. Okay. All right, now let's go into the other living room and we'll take a look in there. Room number 3 that was added across the hallway, across from the dog trot, from the original two rooms. And Esther, what was this room?
It was the parlor and a bedroom together. That was the way it was in those days.
Uh-huh. And tell me what furniture you remember being in this room, and kind of point to where you thought
The bed was here.
the bed
in
was
this
here,
corner.
right behind us.
Yeah. A dresser was over there.
Uh-huh.
The washstand was over here.
Okay.
And a table there when it wasn't wintertime. When the wintertime we had to make some changes, of course.
Yeah.
You know. And the piano was over here.
Okay.
And the wardrobe, or the armoire, whatever they call them, yeah, it was back over here. It was back behind this door, flat up against the wall.
Okay, and
Chair there, and a chair over there.
and the cameraman Lacey, you can see the flue up in the ceiling, and there was a potbelly stove out here in the middle of the floor.
No, it wasn't pot-bellied. It was some other kind. But we'll say it anyway.
But it did have a stovepipe going.
Oh,
up
yeah, it
through
had a
the-
stovepipe going up there. It
up
sure did.
through the ceiling, and that sat out there, and the gas was added many years later. Of
Yes,
course.
when they put the gas through here.
Okay. And you told me once that as a young girl, a teenager, back when you started dating and seeing the boys, this is where you did your courting?
Yes.
And do you remember any specific instances, or who were the boys that came to see you back in those days?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, now, come on, you do know,
No,
too.
mostly Junior. I went with Ike Henderson, and I went with Junior, and I went with Meadows, one of the Meadowses. Where's Elizabeth?
Okay, and of course you married Junior.
I married Junior eventually.
Okay,
Eventually, it didn't happen to be two eventually, because we married pretty young.
yes. But you don't remember this wallpaper in here as being the original wallpaper?
Uh-huh.
It is the original wallpaper.
Uh-huh.
So it's going to be important that we try to restore or save as much of this original wallpaper as we can. What kind of...
Seems to me that this wallpaper has been painted over. I don't know. I'm not sure.
And what kind of light fixture did you, kerosene lantern?
We had kerosene, and we had, well, I don't know whether we had gas then or not, but we did have a Aladdin later on.
Uh-huh. Okay. And the same beautiful pine floors in here.
This was here. It was put here. It's original.
Put here when it was originally built. And Esther says she's not certain when the dog trot was closed in.
I remember it, but I don't remember dates.
She remembers it, but you think it was done when this room was added on or later?
It was done, this room was put on here first.
This room was put on first. So that was one of the later remodelings that your daddy did to close it in. Okay, now let's go back and we'll take a look at the kitchen area that's been added on in the back porch. Now back in the kitchen, which was a room that was added on much later, and at the same time the outside back porch was added on, and as you go around the room you'll see that this is a fairly modern kitchen with antique knotty pine, pretty pine paneling in it, and out through one of the other doors was the door outside to the porch where you went out to the well. And what do you remember this kitchen looking like when you were young, Esther?
Well, this little partition right here wasn't there.
That partition wasn't there.
No, it didn't have this kind of ceiling.
And it didn't have this kind of Celotex ceiling.
And it didn't have the cabinets in there.
The cabinets were not over in the far wall.
We had the dining table set here.
Over on the east side.
Oh, you're kind of mixed up, aren't you?
Now, what is this?
This is, that's west right there.
That's west.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so this is north.
That's north.
On the north corner of the room was a dining room table.
The north end of it, more or less. So that's north.
Okay. And over in this side.
Right here sat the old-time pie safe, the cupboard. We call it the kitchen cupboard.
Uh-huh. Okay.
And over there was Mama's cook table. And the
Was
stove.
that little alcove was up here?
No, that wasn't there. That was
little
built after
alcove was
Papa,
added
after
later.
he remarried.
Yeah.
And the stove sat right here.
Okay. Where that partition kind of is now.
Yeah. Well, that's more or less a cabinet back in
Yeah,
there, built in there. And then there was, let me see, the stove there and the cupboard there, the dining table here, and right here against this wall was the, to the buffet.
A buffet.
And that's the table.
And this door went out onto a porch then. The porch was built when this room was added onto
Yeah,
the
when
house.
this room was built, we had this porch in.
Okay. And you said that your mother kept a wash basin on that little shelf out there on the porch?
Uh-huh.
And
That's where the men all came in from work and washed up for lunch.
Uh-huh. Okay. And this had the plain pine floor in it that the rest of the house had,
As far as I know.
as far as you know. Okay. And you went out this door out here on the west side.
That wasn't a porch then.
It
They
wasn't
just
a
had
porch.
doorsteps there.
Just had a doorstep, and that's where you went out to get water from the well out there.
From that well out there, then this well was built out here, was dug out here, and we went out this door.
Okay. And this later became the main well over here on this side. Okay. Probably in the restoration process, we'll probably take this knotty pine paneling out of here and the Celotex ceiling and try to restore the room to make it look the way it did when your mother was cooking 3 meals a day here.
Yeah, 3 meals a day. No, really and truly, she didn't cook 3 meals a day.
What's that
She
like?
just kind of warmed up what was left over and maybe add to it or something,
I
not
see.
regular meals.
Yeah. And
You know, we didn't
what
eat
was the
cereal.
big meal of the day?
Oh, well, you know, out on the farm, I heard that, what's her name, who was a social etiquette, what was her name? Was it Leah?
Emily Post.
Yeah. Anyway, she said the main meal of the day anywhere was, the main meal of the day was your dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess we did call it dinner anyway.
Lunch.
Yeah, the
which
lunch
we
meal.
call now lunch.
Lunch,
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that's fine. Lacey, do you know of anything else now that we should cover in here? This room has probably been more modernized
The
than.
refrigerator sat over there when we finally did get one.
Uh-huh.
You know, we didn't have refrigerators for a long time. And by the way, we'd buy ice by the 100-pound blocks and had a hole dug and sawdust poured into that hole and croaker sacks built around it. And we wrapped food that could be, you know, closed up and wrapped and put in there.
And where did you keep that ice? In the cabinet?
No, we kept it under in a hole in the ground.
Oh, in a hole in the ground outside. We don't know how lucky we are with modern refrigerators, do
No,
we?
we don't. We don't know. We don't know. How, and a nigger woman, I shouldn't say that now. A black woman, were canning and preserving all the time.
And how much land did your daddy have here? You know,
Well, somewhere around 200 acres.
about 200 acres. How much did your grandfather have?
About 300, I think.
Now, was the Leo Hoffman family, which was further west on up the road?
It was north.
Up
Across the road, it was north, up there where those pine trees are.
All right, north and across the road.
Yeah, from
And-
Grandpa's house.
And Leo was your first cousin?
Yes.
Leo was your first cousin. Okay, and so there were lots of Hoffmans out here on Pistol Mill Road.
Quite a few.
Yeah. Okay, now, the camera is showing a little added-on bathroom that, when Esther was here, that was a porch, wasn't it, Esther?
Uh-huh. No, it was just a little room.
Just a little room, a little storeroom.
No, we had a bed in there.
Oh, you had a bed in there. Uh-huh. So it was actually used as a bedroom.
Yes, it was.
And then
See,
sometime...
Grandpa lived with us after grandmother died.
Uh-huh. And was later converted into a fairly modern bathroom. And we're not going to go in there, but we will restore that little room to its original condition. Was it an iron bed or a wood bed?
It was an iron bed.
An iron bed.
But we did have a beautiful wood bed in that living room up there. It was walnut.
Uh-huh. Well, we'll try to find another pretty walnut bed to go in that
Real high headboard.
real high headboard.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. That all? All right. Thank you, Esther, and we appreciate you coming out here and giving us all this information. Thank you very much.
You know,